what actually happens when you invest in real estate for 20 years. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you the honest story of my real estate investment journey, and I'm going to show you the real numbers and answer this question. Should you bet your retirement on rental properties? Because if you own rental properties and retirement's on your horizon, these are the numbers that you need to see before it's too late to do anything about it. I spent 2 decades building a real estate portfolio that was supposed to be my freedom machine. And for a long time, it worked pretty well. But then things started to change, slowly at first, but then I started seeing a trend. Costs going through the roof, rents not necessarily keeping up. And I started having to dip into my line of credit more and more just to keep all the bills paid every month. And it got to the point that I had to sell off a property a year just to keep the bankers at bay. And somewhere in my brain, I thought that was a solid strategy. Then in August of 2022, I started really doing the math on my real estate business. And I came to this realization that if I kept going at this rate, I was going to end up 80 and flat broke with nothing to show for all my years as a real estate investor. And when I came to that realization, I knew that I had to pivot, try something new. So stick around a little bit because later in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I started building instead, something that's totally changed the retirement picture for me. So when I got into real estate investing, I was sold the same dream that most of us real estate investors were. You buy good properties, you find good tenants, you let the rent cover the mortgage, you build equity over time, and you retire with a rental property portfolio that pays you forever. Sounds great, right? And in the early years, on paper, it looked like it was actually working just like that, and fairly well too. I had properties, I had tenants, I had rent coming in, my portfolio was growing, the equity was building, and I told myself that this plan was working. But here's what I was not tracking closely enough in those early years: the real costs of running that portfolio. Not just the mortgage payments, but the property taxes kept going up and up. Insurance premiums kept going through the roof, and the maintenance never seemed to stop. And the tenants, hey, you know what? Most of them were great. They paid on time, they took care of the place, and I never heard from them. But then there were some of them that weren't quite like that. Late payments all the time, midnight moves, property damage, vacancy gaps while I fixed everything they broke and found a new tenant. And every time something went sideways, it didn't just cost me money, it cost me time, it cost me sleep, it cost me weekends that I could have been spending with my family or up flying somewhere. But I kept telling myself, hey, it's just part of business, right? This is just the price you pay for building long-term wealth. And for a while, I believed it. But here's where the story gets really uncomfortable. At some point, I noticed a pattern. My cash flow, hey, it looked decent on paper, but the money never seemed to actually hit my bank account. There was always something: a roof that needed replacing, a furnace died in February, a tenant who stopped paying, and I had to feed the property for a couple of months by myself while the eviction worked its way through the system. And then I started doing something that somehow I convinced myself was strategic. I started selling a property a year, not to upgrade, not to reinvest into something better, but just to pay off my line of credit, just to service that debt, just to keep this machine from blowing itself apart. And again, somewhere in my brain, I called this portfolio management. But here's the truth that I was really not ready to face. Selling assets to cover operating costs is not a strategy. Believe me, I thought I was being some kind of an investor. But when the truth comes out, it turns out I was just running a very slow liquidation sale and calling it portfolio management. Now, before I get into the numbers real quick, if you're watching this and you're thinking, hey, that sounds a lot like where you're at right now with your real estate investments, I want you to go down into the description and grab your copy of my Freedom Formula Blueprint. You'll find the link in the description below. It's totally free, and it shows you exactly how I started building a different kind of income alongside my rental portfolio. Okay, let's get back to me showing you what the numbers actually look like. Because here's what one of my properties looked like on paper.
And if you want a copy of this, just drop spreadsheet in the comments and I'll make sure that I get you a copy of it. So here we go. What we're looking at here is a piece of real estate that I actually own. Now, the asking price originally was $320,000. As you can see, current annual yield is 7.61. Now, when I talk about the yield, I'm talking about the income minus expenses over the original asking price. Debt coverage ratio, 1.7, not bad. And the debt coverage ratio is the monthly income over the mortgage payment. So as you can see, 1.7, that's not a bad price. Now, I wanted to use this property as an example that this is one of my better performers. This one here is actually a suited basement. So I've actually got two sources of income off this property. Some of the other stuff, single family, will not generate these types of rent in this market. So as you can see, rent required, my rent is $3,000 a month. Property taxes on this property about $3,600 a year, $300 a month. Insurance is about $1,200. When I first started buying real estate, this was half that. So yeah, I get that inflation will jack prices a little bit, but this is a place where you can really run into issues if you're not budgeting on your costs going up at this type of rate and your rent not following suit. I've got property management. I've got 5% in for vacancy allowance. Now that's a little bit of a savings when a place goes vacant. Now I've got a little bit of money in the kitty that I can cover off the expenses if I don't have any revenue coming in on that. Repair and maintenance as well. I'm throwing a little bit into the kitty at this point, 5% for a little bit of repair and maintenance. Now that's going to be about $1,800 a year. Again, remember these numbers when we start getting into the spreadsheet a little bit more. So when I get down here, now I'm talking about financing. You can see that where I'm posting that I'm getting a 75% mortgage on that. I know some of my US followers, I've heard a lot about you can get zero down properties down in the States. In Canada, that's not the case. So financing, I had to get the mortgage for 75% of the value of the property. Interest rate on this particular mortgage back in the day was 3.75%. So the loan amount was $240, payments about $1,234 a month. And the cash flow is just about $800. So if you look at the cash flow, that's going to be about $9,600 a year. Now here's your mortgage balances right here. And you can see that $40,000 in 5 years is getting paid off, which leaves me about $8,000 a year in debt pay down. So total debt pay down and cash flow on that property is about $17,600 a year. Not too bad. So here's where it gets sticky. Let's say for the sake of argument, I have a furnace blowout. $4,800 for that furnace. Now, all of a sudden, you can see that my cash flows drop by about $400 a month. And I'm also only making about $13,000 off that $80,000 investment rather than the 17 originally. Okay, that's one thing. Now, let's say instead of that furnace, let's say I need a new roof, and that new roof is $8,000. Now the cash flows down to $130 from my original almost $800 on that property. So now you can see where things are starting to get skinny on that property. And the mortgage pay down, that's all wrapped in the property. You can't access that unless you refinance it, which leads to a whole bunch of more issues. Now, let's say for the sake of argument, the tenant moves out. And even good tenants, after they move out, they leave some issues that you're going to have to take care of. Typical reno is about $6,000. Now that's going to cover some paint. That's going to cover some probably flooring. Maybe they left it okay, but they still need a little bit of cleaning. And let's say that's $6,000. And it takes me a month to do it. So now all of a sudden, I'm also not getting rent for that month. Here's where things get rough. Look what happened to my cash flow here. And that's money that has to come out of your pocket. So where are you going to get that money from? Now you're going to have to be dipping into your savings. Maybe you're going to have to be pulling off the line of credit of your house. This is where things start to really run into issues. And with the amount of real estate that I had, I found this happening a lot. And I was really dipping into my line of credit to cover all the bills at the end of the month. And if you've only got one or two properties, you might find yourself dipping into your line of credit. You might be dipping into your savings and money that you had earmarked for your retirement, or maybe that family vacation you've been planning for years. And this is where the problem lies with real estate. And when I finally came to realize exactly what this spreadsheet was telling me, it was about August of 2022. And I sat down at my kitchen table and I did something that I'd been avoiding for far too long. I ran the real numbers, just like I showed you. Not the optimistic version, the real stuff about what was actually happening with my real estate business. If I kept selling off a property a year to service my debt, how long before my portfolio was actually going to be gone? And if that did happen, what would I have left? And believe me, the answer was not pretty. If nothing changed, I would have every property sold and be flat broke by the time I hit my 80s. 20 plus years of work, tenant calls, weekends spent fixing problems instead of living the life that I was building towards. And after all that, nothing to show for it? That's not a retirement plan. That's a slow disaster with a very predictable finish line.
And on top of the money, I kept thinking about the trips I'd been putting off, the flying experiences I told myself I'd get to eventually, but eventually kept getting pushed further and further back. There was always another drama, always another repair, always another reason to wait. And that day, I made a decision. I was done with the waiting. I was done with pretending that this real estate plan was going to fix itself. Now, here's the part that I want to be really clear with you on. I am not suggesting that you go out and sell off all your rentals tomorrow. I still own rental properties. I just stopped pretending that they were going to be enough on their own. And I started building something alongside them. I started building income using a digital business model that's fully done for you, where I could make 100% profit. Now, before you go rolling your eyes and clicking out of here, hear me out for a second. When I talk about the online world, I'm not talking about going viral. I'm not talking about becoming some fancy social media influencer. And I'm definitely not talking about having to be some kind of a tech wizard. I'm talking about following a simple system where you can learn the high income skills to build your own online business, even if you're not tech savvy, even if you don't have a ton of extra time. You don't have to live in your DMs either, or bug friends and family for sales and support. The system and the automations do all the heavy lifting for you. So all you have to do is create your content and connect with folks interested in what you're offering using a 2 focus hours a day format, and the rest of your day is yours to live your life. Now, the Freedom Formula Blueprint is exactly the system that I'm using to do exactly that right now. It's a simple program that solves a real problem and helps others learn these same skills to create their own online business. I create content that attracts my right people. I build an email list where I can connect with those people and give them all sorts of valuable info. And then the automations take care of all the customer fulfillment and the product delivery all automatically. And I can run this system from wherever I happen to be in the world. There's no tenant drama. There's no repairs or monthly bills and mortgage to stress about. No selling off assets to keep the wolves away from the door either. And the income doesn't stop when I'm off doing what I want to do. Because again, the automations keep working in the background, delivering valuable info and taking care of sales and customer fulfillment. So if you want to see exactly how this model works, go down into the description and grab your own copy of my Freedom Formula Blueprint. It's completely free. Just hit the link in the description of this video. Go grab it right now and check it out today. Now, before I let you go, here's 4 things that 20 years of real estate investing actually taught me. Number 1, cash flow on paper is not cash flow in your pocket. Run the numbers every single time and be prepared for the inevitable storms. They will come. Number 2, leverage is powerful, but it cuts both ways. If you're using debt to hold on to your real estate portfolio, make sure that you can survive the rough years, because again, there will be some rough years. Number 3, time is your most valuable asset, not the properties. And a strategy that eats your time is not a retirement strategy. It just ends up being a different kind of job. And number 4, it's never too late to build something different. The skills you built in real estate are more valuable than you think. So that's the real story of my 20 years in the rental world. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't always pretty, but certainly I tried to be as honest with you as I can. So now, if this resonates with you, here's what I want you to do next. Go watch my next video right now, where I'm going to walk you through exactly what a digital business looks like and how you can start building alongside your own real estate portfolio. So go check it out and drop any comments or questions you have down in the comments below. And I'll see you on the next video.